Vanessa came down the cabin stairs holding 2 dresses against her body like she was trying on moods. One was cream, soft and expensive looking. The other red and tight enough to make the choice feel like an insult. She smiled at me from the last step, lazy and bright, like we were sharing a private joke. "Be honest," she said. "Which one makes me look most unavailable?" The coffee in my hand had already gone cold. Outside, the mountains were gray with early morning fog, and the lake below the rental looked flat as steel. The whole place smelled like pine, fireplace ash, and the bacon I had cooked half an hour earlier while she slept in. I looked at her for a long second. Unavailable to who? She laughed, not because it was funny, but because she thought I was slow. "Nolan, don't do that." She held up the red one higher, then checked herself in the dark reflection of the window. "It's a holiday weekend. People dress up. People, not friends. Not us. People." I had noticed the shift weeks ago. The longer showers. The screen turned face down. The little half smiles at messages she never answered in front of me. Trent's name never had to be spoken often to become a presence in the room. It was in her tone, in the way she had stopped asking what I wanted and started assuming I would adjust. She chose the red dress. Of course she did. She draped the cream one over a chair, then sat at the kitchen island and started doing her makeup using the black screen of her phone between notifications. She was dressed for a man who liked being seen with other men's wives. I knew that before she even said she was meeting everyone at the marina. Everyone had narrowed down to one person a long time ago. I set my mug in the sink carefully. No noise, no performance. "If you leave this cabin with Trent," I said, "our marriage is over." She paused just long enough to let me know she heard me. Then she smiled at herself again and reached for lipstick. "Nolan, please." Her voice was light, almost affectionate. "You always get dramatic when you're trying to sound calm." "I'm not being dramatic." Now she turned and looked at me properly. Her hair was pinned up loosely, gold hoop earrings catching the kitchen light. She looked beautiful in the precise way dishonest people sometimes do right before they ruin something. "You're not going to do anything," she said. "You never do." That landed exactly where she meant it to. She thought quiet was surrender. Thought restraint was fear. Thought, because I had never shouted, I had never measured the exits. She stood, slipped on her heels, grabbed her bag, and walked past me with the smell of perfume and confidence. At the door, she stopped. "Don't wait up." I watched her leave through the glass as the gravel shifted under her tires. Then the mountain silence came back all at once. She thought she was driving toward a weekend. I knew she was driving past a line she would never be allowed to cross twice. Vanessa thought my warning at the cabin was the kind of line men throw out when they want to feel taller than they are. Something sharp for the moment, then forgotten by morning. She had spent years learning my habits and mistook that for understanding me. She knew I did not slam doors. She knew I did not argue in circles. She knew I kept my voice level even when I was angry. What she never understood was that silence is only harmless when there is nothing behind it. By the time her car disappeared down that narrow mountain road, I was already standing exactly where I had expected to stand. Not shocked, not pacing, not wondering whether she would really go through with it. I had stopped living inside questions months ago. The first lie had been small. A dinner that ran late. A receipt from a restaurant she claimed she had never been to. Then a weekend with girlfriends that left a charge in Marina Lodge 2 hours from where they were supposedly staying. None of it was enough on its own. That was Vanessa's style. Never one lie big enough to collapse under its own weight. Just 100 careful ones, stacked neatly, each one expecting me to be too decent to touch it. I touched all of them. I remember sitting in my office last November, the lamp on, rain ticking against the windows, reading through a credit card statement while Vanessa laughed downstairs on speakerphone with someone she called just a friend. She had no idea I was already comparing dates, saving copies, watching the pattern tighten. Every apology she gave me after a strange night out, every soft hand on my chest, every "you're imagining things" only made me quieter, not weaker, cleaner. I started keeping notes in plain language. The way I do at work when something is headed toward a decision. Dates, times, missing money, stories that changed, people she mentioned too casually, places she said she hated but somehow kept finding excuses to visit. Trent appeared in those notes long before he became bold enough to step into our life by name. I never confronted her then. I wanted the truth in its natural shape. No warnings. No chance for her to become careful again. That was the part she misread. She thought calm meant passive. Thought because I had not dragged her into a fight, I was still trying to save her. In her mind, I was a man clinging to the idea of marriage hard enough to forgive anything that was presented with a smile. She was wrong. I had already rehearsed the ending so many times that when it finally arrived, it felt less like pain and more like a lock turning. At the cabin, when I told her the marriage would end if she left with him, I was not testing her. I was giving her the last clean exit she was ever going to get. She laughed because she thought the danger was in my voice. It never was. After Vanessa left, the cabin didn't feel empty. It felt settled, like something that had been waiting finally had permission to exist. I rinsed my mug, dried it, and placed it back exactly where it belonged. The kitchen was still warm from breakfast, the faint smell of bacon hanging in the air. Through the window, the lake hadn't changed. Still flat, still quiet. No sign that anything had shifted. That was fine. Most important changes never announce themselves. I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside. The gravel crunched under my shoes as I walked past the parked car and toward the side path that led to the garage. The air was colder now, sharper against my face. Clean. Inside, the garage smelled like dust, old wood, and metal. Camping gear was stacked along the back wall. Tents we hadn't used in years, folded chairs, a cooler with a cracked lid. Vanessa always said we should throw it all out. I never did. I moved the gear aside slowly, one piece at a time, until the cabinet behind it came into view. It was plain, gray, bolted to the wall. Nothing about it invited attention. That was the point. The key was on a separate ring in my pocket, not with the house keys. Not anywhere she would ever think to look. The lock clicked once. Inside, there was no clutter, no hesitation. Just a single thick folder, dark blue, clean edges, labeled in simple black print. Final. I took it out and set it on the workbench. For a moment, I just rested my hand on it, feeling the weight, not heavy in the physical sense, heavy in the way decisions become when they stop being theoretical. I opened it. Everything was there, exactly as I had arranged it. Legal filings, already prepared, waiting only for confirmation of date and time. Property documents, transfers, ownership clarifications, clauses Vanessa had signed years ago without reading, buried inside larger agreements she trusted me to handle. Financial petitions, accounts separated quietly over months, structured so nothing would look unusual unless someone knew where to look. Printed timelines, copies of statements, records that told a story without needing emotion, and at the back, a set of instructions, not for revenge, not for confrontation, for removal, clean, precise, final. I flipped through each section slowly, not because I needed to check it, but because this was the moment it became active. Before today, this had been preparation, contingency, a plan that only existed if it was required. Now it was required. Vanessa thought the risk was in getting caught. She never considered what would happen if I stopped giving her the benefit of uncertainty. I closed the folder, aligned its edges carefully against the table, and locked the cabinet again. The camping gear went back in front of it, exactly as before. No trace, no disturbance. From the outside, nothing had changed. Inside, everything had. I stepped back out into the cold air and looked toward the road she had taken down the mountain. She believed she had chosen a weekend. I had just confirmed the ending she had been walking toward for months. I didn't sit down after closing the garage. I didn't need to think. Thinking had already been done months ago, in quieter rooms, with more time. What remained now was execution, and execution doesn't benefit from hesitation. I pulled my phone out as I walked back into the cabin. The signal was weak, but enough. Harold answered on the second ring. "Tell me it's time," he said. No greeting, no small talk. "It's time." There was a short pause. Not surprise. Confirmation. Did she cross the line clearly? He asked. Yes. Good, he said. Papers shuffled on his end. The soft, dry sound of preparation meeting reality. Then we moved forward exactly as outlined. No adjustments unless you tell me otherwise. No adjustments. He understood what that meant. We had built this carefully over a year. Every clause, every filing, every delay had a reason. Rushing now would only introduce noise. I'll file the first set within the hour, Harold continued. Financial protections activate immediately after submission. Property notices go out this afternoon. She won't see it all at once. I know. That's intentional, he said. It keeps her reactive. I ended the call without lingering. There was nothing else to say. The second call took a little longer to connect. Lena always let it ring once or twice more than necessary. Not out of indifference. Out of habit. She liked to choose when to enter a conversation. When she picked up, her voice was steady. You sound different, she said. It's done. Another pause. This one carried something quieter. Not surprise. Not satisfaction. Recognition. She left. Lena asked, Yes. For him. Yes. All right, she said softly. Then we stopped watching. Lena had been the only person who noticed the shift early. Not because Vanessa slipped with her, but because Lena paid attention to things people usually ignore. Tone, timing, absence. She never liked Vanessa's new routines. Never trusted how easily she explained inconsistencies. Months ago, she had asked me one question over coffee. Are you preparing or are you hoping? I told her the truth. Preparing. That was the last time she asked. Claire is ready, Lena said now. I leaned against the kitchen counter, looking at the empty space where Vanessa had been standing an hour earlier. Already? I asked. She's been ready, Lena replied. Lisa signed. Keys are with me. She can move in as soon as you confirm. Claire. Vanessa didn't know the name. Never noticed it in the documents she skimmed. Never questioned why certain properties were structured the way they were. To her, the house had always been simple. Ours, it wasn't. Give her the green light, I said. Today? Today. Lena didn't hesitate. All right, I'll meet her there this afternoon. Quiet move. No attention. That's the point. There was a slight shift in her tone before she spoke again. You sure about this? She asked. Not doubt. Just precision. After today, there's no soft way back. There was never going to be one. She accepted that immediately. Then I'll handle my side, she said. You handle yours. The call ended. I set the phone down on the counter and looked around the cabin one more time. Nothing out of place. Nothing broken. No signs of conflict. Vanessa believed she had stepped out of her life for a weekend. By the time she came back, that life would no longer be waiting for her. Not damaged. Replaced. Vanessa started posting before the sun had fully set over the lake. That didn't surprise me. She always needed an audience when she crossed a line. Not to confess. To control the narrative before anyone else could. I sat at the small dining table in the cabin, my laptop open, her profile pulled up without logging in. Public posts. Careless settings. Another detail she had never thought to change. The first photo was exactly what I expected. Lakeside. Golden light. Her in the red dress. One leg angled slightly forward. Chin tilted just enough to look effortless. A glass in her hand. The caption was light, almost dismissive. Exactly what I needed. No mention of names. There never was at first. The second photo came 10 minutes later. Closer. Dimmer light. A marina bar in the background. Wood. Rope railings. The kind of place that pretends to be casual while charging for the view. Trent was there this time, half visible. His shoulder, his watch. His hand resting too close to her waist to be accidental. She didn't tag him. She didn't need to. People who knew would recognize him. People who didn't weren't meant to matter. I zoomed in. Not on them. On her sunglasses. Mirrored lenses. Dark enough to look stylish. Reflective enough to be useful. There's always a reflection. Most people just don't think to look. At first, it was nothing. Shapes. Light. Movement. Then I adjusted the brightness slightly, sharpened the contrast. And there he was, behind them, slightly to the side, sitting at the same table. Older, not part of the performance. Gray at the temples. Posture straight, controlled. A watch that didn't belong in a place like that. Not flashy, but expensive in a way that signals ownership rather than taste. He wasn't leaning in, wasn't touching her, wasn't trying to be seen, which made him more important than Trent. I sat back in my chair, letting the image settle. Trent had always been too obvious, too easy. The kind of man Vanessa would use to feel desired, visible, temporarily elevated. He fit the surface of her behavior, but not the structure behind it. This man did. The third post confirmed it. Different location. Indoor lighting. A private dining room. White tablecloth, low lights, glassware placed with intention. Vanessa crossed from the older man this time. No Trent. Her caption was shorter. Good company matters. I zoomed in again. Same watch. Same control posture. Same distance that wasn't distance at all. That wasn't a spontaneous weekend. That was arrangement. Trent wasn't a risk. He was a cover. I closed the laptop slowly, not out of hesitation, but because I had seen enough. Vanessa thought she was managing one secret carefully. In reality, she had exposed a pattern she didn't even realize she was part of, and patterns are easier to dismantle than people. I reached for my phone, already knowing this would change the order of a few steps. Not the outcome, just the precision. I didn't call anyone after seeing the second man. I didn't need to. Nothing about that discovery required emotion. It required alignment. I went back to the folder. This time, I didn't take it to the workbench. I brought it inside, set it on the dining table, and opened it under the same light Vanessa had used to check her reflection that morning. Different purpose. Same surface. There was a section near the middle she had signed 3 years ago. We had been restructuring assets back then. At least, that's how I explained it. Tax efficiency. Long-term planning. Protection. She skimmed the documents while half watching a show, asked 1 or 2 distracted questions, then signed where I pointed. She trusted the shape of things, not the details. Inside that section was a clause tied to absence, not disappearance, not abandonment in the dramatic sense. Just a defined period of voluntary absence from the primary residence, combined with documented misconduct affecting shared assets. Clean language. No emotion. Trigger conditions. I ran my finger once along the page, then turned to the attached property structure. The house Vanessa thought of as ours wasn't owned the way she believed. It hadn't been for a long time. It sat inside a layered arrangement that separated control from assumption. She lived there. I structured it. There was also the townhouse. She had forgotten about it almost completely. We bought it early, before everything stabilized, before promotions, before the house became the center of her identity. It had been rented, then empty, then quietly folded into the same structure she never examined. I activated the lease. Claire's name was already there, prepared weeks ago. All that remained was a timestamp. I filled it in, signed where required, and scanned the document. Sent. No ceremony. No hesitation. By the time Vanessa was lifting a glass somewhere on the water, smiling into a camera she thought she controlled. The place she still pictured as hers had shifted legally out from under her. Not taken. Reassigned. I moved through the rest of the documents methodically. Account protections confirmed. Access limitations already pending from Harold's filing. Notification delays structured to arrive in sequence, not all at once. She wouldn't understand it immediately. That was intentional. Confusion creates mistakes, and Vanessa, when confused, defaults to performance instead of analysis. Performance wouldn't help her here. I closed the folder again and sat back. The cabin was quiet. The same quiet as before, but now it felt complete. Not waiting. Not holding. Finished. Vanessa believed she had stepped out for a weekend that would cost her an argument. In reality, she had triggered a system that no longer required her presence to continue. The house was no longer a place we shared. It was part of an outcome she hadn't realized she signed into existence. Vanessa came back late Sunday evening. I wasn't there. That part mattered more than anything else. She expected a version of me to be waiting. Quiet, controlled, maybe hurt, but still present. Someone she could talk over, redirect, manage. That had always been her advantage. Even when she crossed lines, I was there to receive it. This time, there was nothing to receive her. The first sign was a gate. The code didn't work. She tried it twice, then a third time slower, like precision would fix it. It didn't. The keypad blinked red each time, indifferent. She checked her phone. No message from me. No explanation. She sat there for a moment, engine still running, then used the manual override key. That still worked. It wasn't about trapping her outside. Not yet. When she pulled into the driveway, she paused. Something was different. Not obvious. Not dramatic. Just adjusted. The front porch furniture had been rearranged slightly. The planter she always complained about was gone. The light near the door had been replaced with a softer one. Details most people wouldn't notice. Vanessa noticed everything that affected her. She stepped out slowly, heels clicking against the stone, her bag hanging loosely from her shoulder. There was no urgency yet, just confusion starting to form. She walked up to the front door and reached into her purse. The key slid in smoothly, then stopped. It turned halfway. Locked. She frowned, pulled it out, checked it like it might have changed shape, then tried again. Same result. A partial turn. No entry. That was the moment the silence started to press in. She knocked. Once. Twice. Harder the third time. No answer. She stepped back, pulled out her phone, and called me. I didn't pick up. She called again. Nothing. The third call went to voicemail. That's when the shift happened. Not panic. Not yet. But the first crack in control. The realization that this wasn't a misunderstanding. She scrolled, found Lena's name, and hit call. Lena answered. "Hey," Vanessa said, forcing lightness into her voice. "Do you know what's going on with the house? My key's not working." There was a pause on the line. Not long. Just long enough to remove any illusion. "You should have been told," Lena said calmly. "Told what?" "That someone's already staying there." Vanessa let out a short laugh. "What? Stop. I'm literally at the door." "I know." "Then what are you talking about? Who will be staying here?" "Her name is Claire." Silence. Vanessa's posture changed. I could picture it without seeing it. Shoulders tightening slightly, chin lifting, trying to reassert position. "That's not funny, Lena." "I'm not joking." Another pause. Longer this time. "Okay." Then Tara opened the door. Vanessa said, sharper now, "This is my house." Lena didn't raise her voice. That's not how it works anymore. The words landed clean. No emphasis. No explanation. Vanessa turned toward the windows, as if she could will someone into appearing behind the glass. The lights were on inside. Subtle movement in the background. Life continuing without her. "What do you mean, not how it works?" she demanded. "It means," Lena said evenly, "if you want to go inside, you'll need Claire's permission." That was the moment it broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just enough for Vanessa to understand that the door in front of her wasn't just locked. It was no longer hers to open. Vanessa didn't sleep in the car. She drove. Not back to the cabin. Not to a hotel. She went somewhere familiar enough to feel temporary, but not permanent. Her brother Mason's place. He opened the door in a t-shirt and sweatpants. Confusion turning into concern the second he saw her standing there with a bag, and no explanation that made sense fast enough. "Vanessa, I just need to stay here tonight." He stepped aside without asking more. That was his pattern. Let people in first. Ask questions later. She walked past him like she still had somewhere else to be, but she didn't. The house smelled like detergent and takeout. Neutral. Safe. Not hers. She placed her bag on the couch, then immediately picked it up again. Like setting it down meant accepting something she wasn't ready to accept. Mason watched her for a moment. "What happened?" "Nothing," she said too quickly. "Just something with Nolan. It's temporary." He didn't believe that. He didn't push either. "Room's the same," he said, nodding down the hallway. Vanessa walked in, closed the door behind her, and stood there in the quiet. No lake, no view, no reflection to manage. Just a bed, a dresser, and the sound of her own breathing finally unbuffered by noise. Her phone buzzed. Unknown sender. not a number she recognized. She stared at it for a second before opening it. Email. Formal. Structured. Attached documents. From Harold. She sat on the edge of the bed before opening the first file. The language was clean. Cold. Exact. Notice of filing. Preliminary separation of assets. Activation of protective clauses. Her eyes moved faster than her understanding at first, catching words she didn't expect to see together. Infidelity. Abandonment. Misuse of jointly held assets. No, she said quietly, like the document could hear her. She opened the next attachment. Property allocation. The house. Not listed the way she expected. Not shared. Not even disputed. Reassigned. Her grip tightened on the phone. That's not right, she whispered. Next document. Secondary property. The townhouse. Also reassigned. Leased. Active occupant. Claire. That name again. Not abstract anymore. Real. In place. Living inside something Vanessa still thought she could return to. She stood up abruptly, pacing once across the room, then back. No, this is wrong, she said louder now. She scrolled further. Accounts. Restrictions. Access limitations already in effect. Several accounts she used daily were no longer listed under share control. Others were flagged under review conditions she didn't fully understand. The structure was too precise, too complete. This wasn't reaction. This was preparation. Her breathing changed. Faster now. Shallower. For the first time since the cabin, something real broke through the surface. Not anger. Not yet. Fear. She opened the final page. A summary. Short. Direct. Unemotional. All actions taken were in accordance with previously signed agreements and triggered conditions. Previously signed. She tried to remember. Documents. Papers. Moments she skimmed. Times she trusted him to handle it. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't been excluded. She had participated. Without understanding. Her confidence didn't shatter all at once. It fractured. Quietly. Piece by piece. Until she was standing in a room that wasn't hers. Holding proof that the life she thought she could step out of and return had already been closed behind her. And this time, there was no door to knock on. Vanessa chose the restaurant carefully. Not a new place. Not somewhere loud or anonymous. She picked the one we used to go to on anniversaries. The kind of place with low lighting, polished wood, and waiters who remembered names without asking. Memory as leverage. That was her plan. She texted me 2 days before. Let's just talk. One dinner. No lawyers. I didn't reply. She sent the invitation anyway. Not just to me, to my relatives. My aunt, my cousin, people who had sat across from her for years, who had accepted her into conversations, and holidays she now thought she could reactivate with the right setting. She was building a stage, hoping someone would step onto it with her. Saturday evening, she arrived early. Red dress again. Same one from the cabin. She asked for the corner table. The one we always took. Back to the wall. Full view of the room. Control of the space. She ordered a bottle of wine before anyone arrived. Not just any wine. The one I used to save. Anniversaries only. She sat there, phone in her hand, checking the door every few seconds. Composed on the surface. Still performing. 7 o'clock passed. Then 7:10. 7:20. The waiter approached gently. Would you like to wait a little longer before ordering? They're coming, she said with a small, confident smile. They weren't. By 7:30, the wine had been poured once, untouched since. The glass in front of her had a faint line where her lipstick marked the rim, but she hadn't taken another sip. Her phone stayed silent. No messages, no delays, no apologies, because there was nothing to explain. At 7:40, the waiter returned. This time, he placed something on the table. Not food, a small envelope, and the bottle, the same wine. Unopened, he set it down carefully. This was arranged in advance, he said quietly. Vanessa looked at him, confusion breaking through again. By who? He didn't answer directly. It's for you. Then he stepped away. She stared at the envelope for a few seconds before picking it up. Her fingers weren't steady anymore. Inside, there was a single card, heavy paper, clean handwriting, short, precise, not addressed to my wife, not even to Vanessa, the way I used to write her name. It said, for the former resident. Some places don't belong to memories. They belong to the people who remain. Nolan. She read it once. Then again, the words didn't change. Around her, the restaurant moved normally. Conversations, laughter, glasses clinking. No one looking at her. No one aware. Which made it worse. There was no audience to convince. No narrative to control. Just the quiet realization that she had invited people into a moment that no longer included her. She sat there for another 10 minutes. Not touching the wine. Not ordering food. Just holding the card like it might explain something if she waited long enough. It didn't. Eventually, she stood up, left the envelope on the table, and walked out alone. The bottle remained unopened, exactly as it was meant to be. Vanessa didn't wait long after the dinner. Silence has a way of forcing movement, especially in people who depend on reaction. By Monday morning, she had already gone looking for something familiar enough to push against. She chose the house, not because she expected to get in, because she needed to see it again. This time, she didn't try the gate code first. She already knew better. She parked outside, stepped out of the car, and stood there for a moment like she was trying to recognize something that used to belong to her. The place looked maintained, not untouched, not frozen, changed. The porch furniture was arranged differently again, cleaner, intentional. The small details she used to ignore had been corrected, adjusted, finished. She walked up to the edge of the driveway and stopped. That's when she saw me. I was in the yard, sleeves rolled, hands steady, adjusting the line of the stone border along the garden. Nothing complicated, just work that required attention and time. Next to me was Claire. She was kneeling by the planter Vanessa had always said she would get to eventually. Gloves on, hair tied back, focused, comfortable, not like a guest, like someone who lived there. Vanessa didn't call out immediately. For a second, she just watched, trying to place herself back into a frame that no longer had space for her. Then, Nolan. I looked up. No surprise. No pause. Just acknowledgement. She stepped closer, faster now, her composure already slipping at the edges. What is this? She demanded, gesturing toward the house. The yard, Claire, everything. What are you doing? I set the stone in place, brushed the dust from my hands, and stood. Working, I said. That's not what I mean, she snapped. This. Her voice tightened. This isn't normal. Claire stood slowly but didn't step back. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence alone was enough. Vanessa looked between us, searching for something she could still control. You planned this, she said, the accusation finally landing where she thought it mattered. All of it. The house, the papers, her. This whole thing is revenge. I shook my head once. No. She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Don't lie to me, Nolan. You don't just replace someone like this unless you've been planning it. That's where you're wrong. I stepped slightly to the side, not blocking her view, not inviting her closer. I didn't build this to replace you. She frowned, confusion cutting through the anger. Then what is this? I looked at the house briefly, then back at her. This is what my life looks like without you in it. The words didn't hit immediately. They settled, slow, cold. Claire moved past me then, calm, carrying a small watering can toward the side of the yard. No hesitation, no tension, just continuation. Vanessa watched her go, then looked back at me. So that's it? She asked, quieter now. You just move on like nothing mattered? Something in her tone almost resembled a version of her I used to know. Almost. No, I said. I moved on because it did. That was the difference she never understood. She thought the end of something required destruction, emotion, noise. I had already done the only part that mattered. I'd built a future that didn't require her to exist inside it. Vanessa stood there for a few seconds longer, like she was waiting for something else. For anger, for regret, for a crack she could use. There wasn't one. Eventually, she turned. walked back to her car, and left. This time, there was no illusion about where she was going, just away. And for the first time, I didn't watch her leave. I turned back to the yard, picked up the next stone, and set it exactly where it needed to be.